Hello and welcome. This is Founder Leyren, and I am with the Fantasy Grounds Academy. Today I'm going to take a look at Rise of the Drow, the Collector's Edition from AAW Games. Been talking to the guys over there a little bit, trying to get a feel for some of the content they have, making connections with the content as far as locations and how it all adds up. I'm a little behind on the lore, but I'm kind of getting an idea of it. What you'll see is that the product that AAW Games puts out is pretty decent. They have a large variety of content, including the mini dungeon tomes. They have map packs. They have stuff for Pathfinder. They do a lot of publishing. So the quality is pretty good. One of the things that I first gravitated towards when I first started Fantasy Grounds was some of these older AAW games. The Rabalka setting, and also the Stonehome, which is a kind of a dwarven themed Underdark sort of thing. So for starters, the theme that I'm using now is it's basically Sir Mott's Magnificent Darkness theme, and then the decal here, I kind of threw that together with a bunch of different assets. And in the library, in the modules area, if I open that up, I have a ton of content active, so I have some Rob 2E stuff. I have these Adventure a Week adventures. I have a lot of things that are related to this particular setting. I mean, there's like the Occult series of the Underworld, the Drider of the Underworld, which we're going to look at. There's the Rise of the Drow module. There's the primer for the campaign. I have the Spelunker's Guide, Underworld Races, Underworld Encounters, and then I have a new module that I'm going to activate. So if I go into activation, I am going to pull up a new module that I just purchased recently, and this is the Spelunking Guide for the updated kind of the add-on to that. So it's called the Applied and Aggregate Spelunking. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the load on that, and that'll add this to the library. Generally, I don't have this much stuff loaded, but I wanted to show you some of the content that they have for that particular product line. So they have the Rabalka, which is a kind of a surface world, almost like a Viking slash, it's kind of got that Norse kind of feel to it. And then they have the Underdark, and in there you have these dwarves that lived here, and then also there's some Drow types. So they kind of have their own setting. So if you want to break from Wizards of the Coast settings and you want to kind of go to more of a almost like a homebrewish setting, but this is kind of an established thing, so it's not totally homebrew. Adventure is a pretty good sized world, and there's some really good lore here. So I would be remiss not to share this with you guys. I think it's something that you guys should look at. I'm not necessarily trying to promote their product, but I think it's a good product. It's decent. It does have some value to it. It's not terrible. I mean, it's got some good writing, some great artwork. They do a lot of community stuff. They're doing conventions. Matter of fact, they have a deal where if you actually are physically going to like Gary Con or Gen Con or things like that, they're going to give you the content so you can run it, for face-to-face games. So they're really, putting it out there that they want their product out in front of everybody. So I'm kind of doing my part as a community user and also someone who reaches out to a lot of different people. So today I'm going to build a Drider character, which I'm really excited about. I had one of our community members build one of those for me a while back, and I never really got around to using it too much. So I want to see how this one turns out. I'm not going to use the character wizard because it doesn't do very well with picking up homebrew content, so I'm just going to use the old drag and drop method. The character wizard's kind of still in work, so I'm just going to use the old drag and drop method. So now I have all that content loaded, I'm going to go ahead and load up the character sheet. So if I go to the player module here on the right hand side, this is the area where you manage and create characters. So I'm going to click on characters. And as you can see, I already have some characters on here, which I was going to use for testing. But I'm going to go ahead and create a Drider character. So I'm going to click on this green little plus button here, and that's going to bring up a blank sheet. And then from there, I'm going to start building this character that I want to try out. I'm going to try to build a Drider. So with that in mind, first thing I usually do is lay out my desktop, because that's an important aspect of Fantasy Grounds that a lot of people are not aware of when you're new. But it's good to have a home or a spot for your content so that you're not constantly having to move windows around. That's kind of what I've done here. Got this kind of laid out in such a way. There's a combat tracker too, so if I need to test something while you're building, it's nice to be able to put your character on the combat tracker and have it ready to go in case you want to do a little testing. So that's what I've done here. Is I have these characters on here. I'm checking this out. There's some zombies on here, and I might throw the Drider in at some point and see how it looks and how it appears. So for the time being, I don't have a real name for this, but I'm going to call it a Drider with a Y instead of an I, just so I have a kind of a clear defined memory of what I did. Usually in Fantasy Grounds, you start with your ability scores. I'm just going to use the standard array, so I'm not going to do anything fancy, but I want to make this guy sort of, or gal, I haven't decided what the sex is going to be, but I'm going to definitely, put like an 11. You got 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8. So I'll put 12 in Dex, because I know most Driders, Drow stuff, so maybe a 13 in Dex. 12, 10, and 8. So where would I put the 8? Probably in one of these stats here. So con is definitely not something I like to dump stat on. Maybe intelligence. So maybe this creature is not as intelligent as it could be. And 14 in the strength category sounds about right. 15, 14, 13, 12. So I'm going to put 12 in charisma. 15, 14, 13. Okay, so I need to put 15 in either wisdom or con. I think I'm going to put it in con, actually. Give this character a fighting chance. So having that +2 is going to go for every level, and I'm going to at least level this up to level 3 or 4, so we'll see how it goes. So that's basically the stats. So the background, if you pull down your campaign and you have the content loaded, you can actually grab some of the backgrounds from either the standard D&D stuff, or you can actually use some of the ones provided by AAW. So if I go to backgrounds and the characters, I should be able to check out the provided backgrounds that come from the different source books I have loaded. So here's the backgrounds. And if you come through here, you can actually take a look at what I have. There's a minor class and an acolyte for the primer and for the Underworld races. So I don't want this one to be a minor, but I might have this Strider may have been a wizard or a priestess at one point before they were cast down and turned into a Drider or something like that. So I'm going to put that this particular acolyte instead of one from the player's handbook. I'll use the one out of the Rise of the Drow primer, the character primer. So drag and drop that over to backgrounds, and as you can see on the very back of the sheet here on the left, there is a features that were added, and if you go to the actual abilities, you'll see that the Shelter of the Faithful and then 2 languages of your choice pops up here. And then as far as skills go, you get Insight and Religion. So I don't have to pick those later on. So that's for your background. And the reason I do background first is because those are forced on you. You really don't have a choice. So that's kind of why we do that first. In case you have a race that gives you a choice, then you at least can pick around that. If you use the character wizard, you don't have this problem. But right now, the character wizard doesn't pick up a lot of the homebrew, so that's why I'm doing it this way. So I'm going to take and put now the race, and that is going to allow me to, let's see, Rise of the Drow primer. So I'm going to go with, let's see, this is all the races. Here's the Driders of the Underworld players. So here's the only class in there. So I'll grab and drag and drop that one into the race area. And as you choose this, you can pick a sub-race. So you have this main one, which is the subspecies. They're actually made from Drow who've been given a second chance. So they're kind of like given that that ability to kind of redeem themselves, but they're still part of the Drow society. And then the other ones are the failed ones. That's the one I want. So I'm going to have one that's strength based because that's the one kind of like what I was thinking of. This is probably a male, or it could have been a wizard or a priestess, but I think in this case I'm going to go ahead and use basically is a warrior type that had failed the test. It did some training, but then was cast out. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that by clicking on OK. And it will add all those features in that come in with that class. So you have Blessed Soldiers, Shitness Plates, Drider Web, a Drydic Body, Fey Ancestry, Grotesque Monster. So all these different things I got to look at as we're building this. And then it says Elvish might be something, and you get 2 of your choice, Undercommon. So it looks like Abyssal might be one of them. So we'll have to go through those, but it looks like the languages kind of got goofy, but you have Elvish as one of your choices as well. So you can speak Elvish, you can speak Undercommon. You have 2 extra languages from your background, and then you'll have probably 1 or 2 more because of the class and such. So that's pretty cool. So I might end up making like a ranger type. We'll have to find out. So that is for the actual background. And then we did the race, and now we're going to do class and level. So I usually click on this little magnifying glass up here on the top, break this out over here on the side so it's not buried or covered, and then I will go over to the classes and take a look at what we have. So in the character section, I'm going to pull up the classes and take a look, and it looks like there's some that are unique to that world. So let's take a look at that primer. See if there's anything in there that I will. Here's the Drider of the Underworld. You can be a bard, which is interesting. Then there's this, which is the Rise of the Drow, this character primer. And then here's some Underworld classes and races. So I might take, let's see, Under Terror. That sounds really cool. What's that? Oh, this goes to the mutating race. I see. Fighter. That's what I want to be. Yeah, so I'm going to use the one out of the Underworld races just in case. But normally I would use the one out of the player's handbook. But the Dour Destroyer. That's probably the Dark Elves or the Dwarves. Yeah, the Dour Destroyer swears to end the illusions of all creatures just, and his epiphany has robbed him from any sentient. Yeah, that sounds kind of cool, actually. The most important aspect is the moment of epiphany. All destroyers are born in the moment of trauma. You know, that might actually be kind of cool. All dust. It's basically a charisma based. I think I'll pass, but it looks interesting for sure. So I'm just going to pick the fighter, which is going to be a basic class to use anyway. So I'll go ahead and drag this fighter up to here, and now I need to pick 2 different things. So I'm going to go with athletics and maybe perception or survival. I think perception would be a lot more useful for this particular character, or intimidation, but I think those 2 would definitely agree with this. And then I'll take a look at the skills. Now you should have 4 skills at level 1, so let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's how you check to make sure that you didn't double up on anything. And that's why the character builder is kind of nice, because you don't have to worry about it as much. So that's that. So I'll go ahead and close that. So I'm going to actually level this character up before I do anything else. So the con bonuses will add up. Let's see, we have a 15 strength, 13 dex, 17 con because of what we chose, and 8 intelligence, 10 wisdom, 12 charisma. So that's the Drider build that we have. And that kind of makes sense. So I want to level up. So all you have to do is drag this link back into the same window that it's sitting in. So I just left click and drag, and then just drop it right back in this window. And as you level up, more things will be added if applicable. So for the first few levels, you get a lot of things, and then it's kind of spaced out after 5th level. So I got those 2 levels out of the way. I'm going to do at least one more so we can get the archetype. And there we go. So this is a bunch of different things that you can pick from. I think I'm going to pick an Eldritch Knight or something like that. So you get a combined thing of mastery of magic and of fighting. I think that would be kind of cool. And then you focus your study on 8 schools of magic. Abjuration and evocation is what they usually go for. So this is kind of like a war magic type thing. It could be. And let me see what the other options are. This is a living vampire, a blind duelist, a sapper, smithkin, battle master, and a champion. See, those kind of don't fit. So I think the Eldritch Knight is going to be the one. So I'm going to go ahead and click that and click on the OK, and that will assign the archetype. And then anything assigned with that will be added back here in the traits. The proficiencies are already added, and features. So that's kind of a cool thing. Since I don't have the coding for a lot of this stuff, I'll probably have to do some of this stuff manually, but that's all right. It's part of the fun of Fantasy Grounds and learning how to use the actual software. And also the rule set, you're learning about that. So now that it's 3rd level, generally at 3rd level, you're at 900 XP, and your next level, I believe, is 2700 for 4th level. If you go by rules as written, some game masters don't even use that. I just habitually put that in there just for the sake of it. Now the Drider, I don't have a good token for him, but I'm going to go ahead and left click on the portrait. I'm just going to use a Drow token because the top half of his head actually looks like a Drow. So I will definitely use something that looks kind of like a dark elf. There's some tokens that come, or actually they're not just tokens, but there's portraits that come with Fantasy Grounds to start with, and there's a couple of them in there that I believe near the beginning of the list that look pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and use one of those as the actual background or the portrait. And if you don't have a token, the portrait automatically becomes your token. So that little square ends up being what you see on the map. So that's kind of what I'm doing here is I'm going to open up the Fantasy Grounds Fantasy folder and pick out some of the kind of the dark elf looking portraits. Those seem to work pretty good with this type of build that I've got here. So I did not mean to pick that. So let me try again. So I double clicked and you're only supposed to single click. So that's why it did that. So it's going to be patient and let it ride here. Let it open for once. And while we're waiting for it to load, there's all these books here on this cover are some of the content that's available in AAW games. So again, if you're tired of the Sword Coast and you want something different, or you want a little bit change of pace or different world, AAW provides that for you. And they're very comparable. I would say like to Kobold Press has their own world. There's other publishers out there that kind of do similar things, but I think AAW Games, Kobold Press, there's a few other publishers out there that really do a good job with this stuff. So, all right, that looks pretty cool. It's kind of a purplish kind of hue to it, a side view profile, so it looks pretty good. And then for the features and such, we're going to go through some of this stuff, but I'm going to go through and straighten up the languages. So here there's lots of excess text that doesn't belong here. So I'm going to do Abyssal, and we'll probably do like Drow, of course, or not Drow, but Elvish, Abyssal. We already have Undercommon and Common, so get rid of that. So I'll put common here. And then what else should we put? Yeah, we want abyssal. And then elvish. So this character has quite a few languages because they were an acolyte at one point. And they understand religion and such, so even though they may not be practicing religion, they still have that background. So this one individual has action surge, it has a fighting style. I think for this particular character, I might put a defensive style instead of an offense, or perhaps a great weapon or protection. Let's see, there's 2 weapon style. And archery, no, because he's got spells probably or range things. So probably defense is what we do, or maybe dueling. So when you're wielding a melee weapon in one hand and no other weapon, you gain a +2. Yeah, let's do dueling. So fighting style, I'm going to notate in here. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to put dueling as our go-to for this particular character for the build. So this is the basically the bonus you're going to get when you use one weapon. That's pretty cool. So probably going to give this guy a spear because it's pretty universal. You can use it one or two-handed, and you can throw it. So spear and some javelins or something might be a good thing. Okay, so and it has spell casting too. So it's kind of like a 1/3 caster. So they're not very powerful in casting, but nonetheless. So dueling is something that I'm going to look into. Action surge is another thing that I will be looking at. The Eldritch Knight just sort of defines the archetype. So you're going to get spell casting, and then you get certain access to certain spells. So here's the chart for that under that description. So I want to definitely have this available for later. So I'll bookmark this by left-clicking, and then I have it centered here. So I'll left-click and drag this link down to the bottom so that I can get to this quicker when I need to pick up spells. And then there's a weapon bond, so that'll be helpful with this spear. At 3rd level, you have like a ritual that you have, and you form a bond between your weapon and such. So it'll be like probably a cool spear or something, maybe a +1 spear, something kind of magical or special. I think that'll be kind of cool. So I'll get that up here so we can look at that. The Eldritch Knight description. I think I'm good until he goes up in level because the War Magic doesn't start till 7th. So Weapon Bond and Spellcasting are the 2 that I need to look at for right now. And then for the martial archetype, this just describes that you're going to be going up to 3rd level, and you get to pick your archetype, and they change at 3rd, 7th, 10th, 15th, and 18th level. So we don't really need to mess with that. Second wind is basically like healing yourself once per, I think it says long rest. Yeah, short or long rest. So there's your second wind. That'll be something that we can put on our actions tab. And then the weapon bond itself, we already have this feature listed here, but basically that's what we were looking at earlier. So it's a level 3 feature, and this is basically describing that. So that's pretty cool. So weapon bond, martial archetype. So yeah, there we go. So ageless is you're immune to the effects that alter or change your physical age while you serve your deity. This deity need not be the one who turned you into a Drider. So that's kind of a passive ability. We just maybe put a note somewhere that this individual's ageless. They do have a natural bite, so that'll be basically like a weapon for mandibles, and you're proficient, and it does 1d6 points of damage, so that's kind of cool. The bite has the finesse and light property, so you can use your dexterity if you want instead of strength. That's pretty cool. Let's see, blessed soldiers. So you're immune to both poison damage and the poison condition if they're caused by the venom of spiders or spider-like creatures. Scorpions and all other forms of poisons can still harm you. So this is kind of a special immunity. There's no way to really code that, but you can put a bonus on if you know that you're being attacked by a spider, we can still put the coating on. We just can't leave it on the whole time because if it's from another source, it doesn't work that way. So this is kind of tricky. This is one where you have to use it as you need it type thing. The Drider Web. You can produce silky web. You can use your action to create a web that's large enough to target a large or small creature. You can use it as a net, and there's some other modifiers here. And sometimes you can expel it from your arachnid half, while others are capable of spitting spider silk from their humanoid mouths. So it's kind of interesting. But that's kind of almost a combination of passive and something you can code. So we'll take a look at that. Let's see. Fey Ancestry is a common elven type thing, so that'll go in here. And then you have your grotesque monster. So basically, you're kind of put people at fear. You have disadvantage on all charisma, like deception, performance, persuasion, those sort of things, for non-insectoid creatures. So you're kind of horrific to others. You get advantage though when you're dealing with creatures that are insectoids, or your horrific look does grant you advantage on intimidation checks against non-insectoid creatures. So intimidation is boosted by that. So that's an interesting power there. And then for the chitinous plates, that is basically your armor, I believe, natural armor. So due to your body's spider silk, or your thickness, your chitinous plates, you have an unarmored AC of 12 while not wearing armor. You can reach 3rd level, and every 3 levels after, your unarmored AC becomes +1. Chitinous plates and the manufactured armor. As per the official rules, a character with natural armor wearing manufactured armor can choose how to calculate its armor class. Usually the higher value makes the most sense. So what we can do with that is we'll assume that this particular creature is only using what it's going to use. So it has a +1 bonus here, but if you open up this sheet, you can put 2 in miscellaneous, or you can code it as an effect. Being that this is more of a permanent type thing and not armor or anything, I'll just put it in miscellaneous. That's the easiest way to adjust this, but you have to remember to increase it as they level up. So it becomes part of their natural armor class, so I'm just going to put it there. And that is this 13. That's where that comes from. So it's kind of like some of the races out there have like it's not hard coded. So I have to add it manually, and the easiest way to do that is through there. Or you could make an action on your character sheet under the Actions tab that is a kind of like a passive thing, but you have to turn it on every time you put your character in a combat tracker. I'd rather have it more of a permanent thing. Okay, so that's that. And then we want to look at, let's see, the Drydic body. Its size is considered large. But since the Drow part is medium, you can use medium-sized equipment and your reach as though you were medium-sized. You can't wear or attune footwear or any clothes that require non-arachnid legs. So you can't have like boots, levitation, that sort of thing. So that's kind of more of a limitation and kind of a definition of what you can do. Then you have keen senses, which is basically you have proficiency in the perception skills. So that's why you have to be careful with that. I think I may have doubled up on that, so I didn't have to pick the perception. I could have picked the survival, so I'll go ahead and click survival. So that was something that you got to watch when you're building your characters, that you're not cheating yourself out of some of those skills. So that was something I got from my race or my class, such things. So let's see. So poison saliva. So the saliva blood of the failed is mildly poisonous to all species. So you have a poison too. You have spider climb, which is incredible. You have sunlight sensitivity, which is kind of a limitation. That is something that you'll have to deal with when you're adventuring if you're going to play this. The trance is for how they rest, and web walker is basically ignoring the restrictions by webbing. I think that should go into the spider climb, to be honest. So there's all your traits. So that's quite a powerful build. You can use all armor and shields, and you can use any simple weapons or martial weapons. So I think this is a pretty good build. Just having a little bit of magic and then having the Drow Drider things is pretty cool. So for their movement, they can still only move 30 feet. So that doesn't change anything for having 6 legs or whatever. But they have superior dark vision, so they can see a lot further in front of them. So let's take a look at their items here. So obviously I don't have anything yet because I haven't put anything in their inventory, but I'm going to hand pick the stuff. Normally I would just drag them from another kit, but I want to customize this build. I don't see this guy carrying a bunch of gear. I think it'd just be just certain things. So I'm going to open up the campaign and go to items. Normally you would start with your starting gear and some starting gold. I'm just going to give this person or this particular character some items. And not overkill either. So definitely want that spear. So I'm going to take a look at that. And I think I'm going to make it a +1 spear. So yeah, here's a +1 spear. I don't think that's too overpowered. Let me take a look at it. Does it cost? You don't have to attune to it. So that's pretty cool. So it's basically you can throw it. It's versatile. It's magic. That's perfect. So I'm going to drag and drop this on the equipment area, and that will add it to here. And here's the actual. It's equipped already. And if you go to the Actions tab, you'll notice that it will set up ammunition. So it's not identified. That's why it says refined. So if you go to your inventory and you actually as the GM, the player can't do this, but if you go to this equipped item and you open this up, you have to ID it, so identify it, and then it becomes +1 spear, and then on your Actions tab, it'll say +1 here as well. For ammo, we're going to say 1, because once you throw it, that's pretty much a done deal. So you can change how many hands you're using when you're using this character, so you can toggle from primary to two-handed or an offhand attack, or you could go back to the standard one-handed use. So that's just a way to change, how you're using the weapon. So you got a couple spell slots. I think I want to give this individual some range, possibly. So normally you can't shoot a longbow very well off the back of a mount, but since this individual is an actual drider, I think a longbow would be useful for them, or something like that, because then you can get things out of range. But then they're also underground a lot of times, so I'm wondering if that would even be a good fit for that. Maybe a short bow would do it, because that's kind of more compact and it makes more sense in more of an underdark. Actually, you know what? Crossbow. That's kind of what, yeah, crossbow. A light crossbow would probably do it. The hand ones are a little bit too small. It's not as handy, no pun intended. So crossbow, light. We'll put that in their inventory and see how this goes. So crossbow, light. There we go. Let's see, crossbow, light. All right, so there's the crossbow. Now you need bolts, so we need to get him some bolts. And we could say, during gameplay, I'm almost positive that your players are going to say, well, can I lick the bolts and make them poisonous? Probably. We'll make a little thing in case, someone would want to do that. And then we need the case, because you got to be able to carry it. So the crossbow bolt case. I'm going to give this guy a pouch. I don't think he needs a whole backpack, but a pouch to carry things would be handy. I might give him. Let's see. He's got that. He has that. Oh, his spell focus. So let me see if we can crystal. Let's see if there's anything like that. So player's handbook. So this is your arcane focus. So yeah, I want to put the crystal in his inventory. That's his arcane focus for his magic. Maybe he's got a necklace or something. Instead of having a component pouch or a spell book, he just has like a crystal that he uses to attune himself to the world of magic. And let's see, what else would he need that might be useful? Oh, the basics like a water skin. That's important to have, water skin. So there we go. And he probably carry 2 of those since he's kind of big. And that way he has plenty of water. And then rations, of course. So we'll bring over some rations. It would help if I spelled it correctly. I put Ratians. Okay, so here is some rations. So here's 1 day rations. I'm going to go ahead and change that to, let's see. We're going to go with like 5 days worth of rations. Doesn't normally need to carry any more than that. Doesn't need a rope because he's got the spider climb and that sort of thing. I'm going to give him a potion of healing. So just 1 potion. Just for the sake of it, in case he gets in a bind. So there's the potion of healing, and you need to identify it. So I'm going to go ahead and identify it so that way he knows what it is. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't see him needing too much else. I mean, if you're going to put any armor on it, it might be padded or leather, something like that. So maybe, but he's already got natural armor that's better than leather. So leather's not going to do anything but add weight. Unless he's going to wear like chainmail or something like that, and then it kind of cancels out the natural armor. So I'll just leave him as it is. So I don't want him to carry too much stuff. He might have a few gold on him, so 3 gold pieces. I'm going to give him a gemstone just for trade and barter in case someone doesn't take gold currency. They might want some onyx. So I'm going to grab an onyx gemstone. There's just 1 of them, so it's not like he's got too many. And it's just like a precious stone that he has in his inventory. And what he'll do is he'll present that for trade if he needs to. It's worth 50 gold. So I'll put a notation after that so that I remember I don't have to open it up to look. So that's going to go in a pouch. Along with his crystal. We'll say that he keeps it in there for safekeeping. And then, let's see, potion of healing will also be in the pouch. Okay, so that's that. The water skin is okay. Okay, so the crossbow bolts will go into the case. And then I think that's about it. I mean, he doesn't need a whole lot more of anything. So it kind of reshuffles the inventory and straightens it out. So that's pretty much it. You have a pouch, you have some food, probably a little bag of food and some a potion, a couple weapons, and a spear. I mean, that's pretty much all he needs. He's got a crossbow bolt. You know, I might give him a dagger. Yeah, he's got bite. I mean, it's got poison and bite, so he really doesn't need that. So that's good. And I might give him a couple, like 11 copper pieces, 1 silver. So he has different denominations of coins. Potion of healing should at least weigh a pound, so I put weight on that. So there we go. So he's not very encumbered, so that's good. That means he can climb on webs and don't have to worry about dropping things and that sort of stuff. But that's pretty cool. So it's not like he has a saddlebag. I mean, he kind of has something he slings over him, but it's not a saddlebag. He'd probably refuse to let anyone ride him, and that would probably be an insult. Okay, so that is that. So we are deciding to make this a male. his human side probably looks like he's about 30 or so. I'm going to leave this stuff off, but as far as alignment goes, I'm going to make him neutral evil. He's not chaotic, but he's not lawful. I haven't decided a deity yet. I'll have to look at see what's available. I can pick all these personality traits and such from the Acolyte background, but I might not because they may not make sense, or I might use like a fighter thing more like a soldier. I'll have to take a look and see, because if you go to your main tab and you open up the Acolyte background, you scroll down to the bottom, it tells you some of the things that you might start with. Like in this case, you get a holy symbol, which I think is that crystal basically. A prayer book or a prayer wheel, some incense. You get the vestments, a set of common clothes, and a belt pouch containing 15 gold. Well, I kind of went around that because I don't see any point. It doesn't make sense. This shelter of the faithful won't be very useful because he won't be attending too many temples that'll give him shelter or some sanctuary. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the personality traits. So this is from the SRD, I guess, is where this comes from. So I'm going to go ahead and activate that just so that I can access that. So they created this module and they linked the SRD to the character sheet. So sometimes you have to have the correct books, otherwise it won't pull the data. So it's telling me that this creature, this background, was created for this product with the SRD, which is right, but I wouldn't have linked it. I would have made a copy of it or something. But anyways, that's okay. Everyone has a free SRD, so it's not bad. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to the inventory, or actually these will be the notes for role-playing. So there's an idolization of a hero. There's finding common ground between enemies. I see omens in every event in action. I could see that. The gods try to speak to us. We just need to listen, or nothing can shake my optimism. I quote or misquote texts from Proverbs. I'm tolerant of other faiths, or I've enjoyed. I like the tolerance. I think being cast out by Lolth and having to switch religions was a big problem for this one. So I'm just dragging the text over and dropping it under the personality traits. And that's all you do with these. And then there's another table. This is the ideal table. So there's traditional, there's charity, change, power. I hope to one day rise to the top of my faith's religious hierarchy. I don't think so. Faith is I trust all my deeds. Nope. Aspiration. Nope. I think change is probably the closest, or tradition. Charity is helping those in need. Now, I think this change one is about as close as we're going to get. So we must help bring about change that the gods are constantly working in the world. That kind of makes sense. For being that he had to change his religion, all his dogma and everything, that's pretty hard on someone. The bonds would be, I'd like to die to recover an ancient relic. That might be a thing. I will get revenge on the corrupt temple hierarchy. You branded me as a heretic. That's even better. You know what? I'm taking both of those. So I get the bond from here, and then I'm going to add a space after that. I'm going to drag this other one. So this guy has a couple different agendas here. Let's see. New line. Drag this recover relic thing over here. That sounds awesome. So he's probably looking for this spider emblem or something that's really tied into arachnids, and it's probably something that Lolth would want. And maybe he thinks that if he recovers that ancient item, I think it's called the Tear of Lolth or something like that. It's a big, huge obsidian gemstone that he has to find. It's probably in possession by somebody else right now, but everyone has claim to it. But the Drow call it the Tears of Lolth, or whoever their goddess is, or god. I judge others harshly, even myself more severely. Put too much trust in those who wield power. My piety leads me to go blindly. I'm inflexible in my thinking. I'm suspicious of strangers. I expect the worst. You know, I have to say that he judges others and even himself more harshly. And I even like the other one that says that, he's kind of down on himself. So I'm going to go ahead and put that also suspicious. I like that. this is really kind of embodies his behavior. You know, he's kind of down on himself, doesn't have a good trust for anybody, so I like it. So, nope. So, put too much piety. I'm suspicious. That's the one. Okay, so that is basically the background and some of the details. Like I said, I haven't picked any deity yet, but I will pick somebody. Let's see, this is for Adventures League, and this is the Actions tab. So this is where I'm going to pick some spells, but if you want to automate your character a little bit easier and not have to come up with all this stuff, you can get content from Rob 2E's team. He's got the coding effects, which will bring over some of these items here that I have listed as effects onto the character sheet to make it easier to automate. Or you can use Grim Press. He has another product. I use Rob 2E's though because I'm used to it. This is the first one I learned. There's no need for me to switch back and forth between the publishers, but you know, if you're into Grim Press stuff, they have a similar product. But they're not coded for this particular series because this is kind of a unique build. So you know, Rob's stuff carries the and same with Grimm's. They go for the main core content. It doesn't necessarily code everything for the custom content, so you kind of have to do a lot of that on your own anyways. So I'm going to go ahead and grab and add powers, and all I'm doing is I clicked on this little edit button, I clicked the star, and I'm going to call this racial abilities, and this is where I'm going to drag and drop anything that's related to Drow that he gets. I didn't see much other than regular spell casting, so he's not getting the typical Drow, you know, the darkness and that sort of thing, but he is going to have some of this poison and all this other stuff. So I'm going to take a look at that. So I made a group called racial abilities, and then I'm going to make another group called consumables, and then there's going to be another one called standard action. So I'm making these groups ahead of time, so I'll have places to drag the coding. So standard actions is something that is not always included on your sheets. And then we're going to make another group. This one is going to be for class features. So anything that I can code or I can find for class features, that will be put there. And then as far as spells go, I'll leave that alone. I might make a section for innate spells if I have to. So I think there was somewhere in there where I got an innate spell. I don't remember what it was, but basically, anytime you have a spell ability, if it's based on a different spell casting ability than your normal spell casting ability, then you have to change that group. But I'm not going to worry about it just yet. So let's go and open up some of this content. So if you go to your library, if you own any of this is like third-party stuff that you get from the DM's Guild or from the Forge or both. So if I go to the library, and I'm going to go to assets or modules in this case, and right now I already have Rob 2E's conditions and effects, but I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to open up some of the content to make it a little easier to build a character. So I'm going to go with effects is my search term, and that should bring up most of Rob's stuff. And see, I have some of Grimm's too that I could try at some point. Let's see, but I don't have the extension loaded, so I don't want to mess with it. So 5e conditions effects, what I already have. Here's the class features one. There is the deep magic spells. I actually might pull that in at some point, but I don't know if I want to do it right for this build right now. But if I had a wizard or a cleric or some kind of bard or something, I might do that. 5e coding effects for the feats, in case you want to add any feats. Here's one for racial traits. So there's not any necessarily for Driders, but I can kind of wing it. And then here's the spells. And then if you have anything like torches or, you know, gear or something, you probably want to load that too, because you can, like potions, for instance, are already coded in there if you want to do that without having to create it. So I think I'll create the potion myself. It's not that hard to do. And I can kind of show you guys how to do it. But there's the coating effects for potions if you wanted to do that. So that's pretty good right there. There's magic weapons. We already have that. So we don't have anything too fancy right now. So I'll go ahead and close that. And now that I have that loaded, what I will do is I'll come over here to the character area, go to spells, and I'm going to filter this. So I'm going to go to Rob 2E Coding Effects, and it'll be spells. And then on the bottom, I'm only going to go with first level, because that's the only ones I have access to right now. And then I want to select the source. So this is going to be the, what was the Arcane Eldritch Knight. Is that it? Let's see. Was he Eldritch Knight? Yeah, failed. But what was the archetype I took? That's what I need to know. I think it was. Yep, Eldritch Knight. So yes, I have it filtered to Eldritch Knight. These are the spells that I have access to, unless the background or the class tells you otherwise. So I think to make this guy kind of cool, he only has a couple slots, so I got to be careful which ones I choose. So I think for the sake of this character, is mostly offensive, but I think Grease might be a thing. Long Strider, Mage Armor might be a thing. Magic Missile, or I want to say Witch Bolt. So let me take a look at Witch Bolt. Witch Bolt is... Okay, so that comes from there. So I can use that if I wanted to, or I can use... I'm going to use Magic Missile. I think it's more utility. So I'm just going to drag and drop Magic Missile in where it says spell slots, and it'll go where it's supposed to. So I'll just leave that there. And then if I wanted shield or some kind of Mage Armor, let's take a look at Mage Armor. What does that do? Yeah, so I think Grease and... Yeah, Grease and that are probably my favorite ones. Grease is definitely one of my favorite spells. So that's what he has in his repertoire here. Grease, and he has to slow people down, and then he's got Magic Missile. So that's pretty cool. So that's that. And then I will switch this over to class features. And I will take the level off of it because I don't want to filter anymore, because you won't be able to see anything else. And then take this and go back to nothing. So there's nothing selected. So I'm going to drag and drop the dodge action into the standard actions area. I'm going to do the help action and hide. And then ready to action spell. And then just the regular standard ready action. And then, I don't know what this is for, but Player's Handbook used. Okay, well, I'm not going to worry about it, but basically those are the main ones I'm going to have. And then this placeholder up here, I'm going to go ahead and double click that and delete it. Okay, so I'm getting out of the edit mode, and I'm going to collapse these so I don't have to see those. Expand it out so there's not taking up too much room. There we go. Same thing with the spells. Sometimes you have to click on this thing here to get it to parse, because it was saying DC of 8. So I clicked on the magnifying glass and it automatically looked the spell back up and gave it the proper DC value. So sometimes you have to do that. I don't know why it does that, but it does. So there's that. And then for racial abilities, I'm going to look at the Drow, because I know there's a couple in there that I can steal. So I want to go to, let's see. So I don't want to do class features yet, so I'm going to do the racial traits, because that's probably the most annoying one. And let's go with Dwarf. So I want to have this Resilience. So that is basically the resistance to, let's see, so stone cunning, dwarf sensitivity, elf, drow magic, dark vision. What's that? Okay, dark vision. And then, so I want that, dark vision. I'll have to look to see what else there is. So there's the sunlight sensitivity. And let's go back, take a look at what else there is. So elf, drow, fey step. Okay, so here's elf, fey ancestry. That will go in the racial traits. Okay, I just deleted my placeholder. Okay, so we have that. And then I wanted the dark vision. So I will use the Drow magic dark vision. I might have to change the range on it, but that'll work. That's close enough. Yeah, see this says dark vision 120, but really it says 60, but I need it to say 120. So I'm gonna type that and fix that. But basically the code will work if I do it this way. There we go. So I just changed that to 120. Not a big deal. Okay, so that's if you want to use the code for the, for the actual spell. And this ancestry thing, Fey ancestry, is kind of an elven trait. Let's see, what else do we want to put in there? He's got some other ones like this poison thing. So I want to give him the Dwergar or the, well, he needs sunlight sensitivity, that's for sure. So let's see what we got there. Elf sunlight sensitivity, so I'll put that in there. So that is going to go into the racial traits, which gives them disadvantage and all that stuff. And then definitely want to give him the Dwarven Resilience, or the Dwergar Resilience. Let's see what that. Okay, Dwarven Resilience. Let's see what that does. Player's Handbook, Dwarven Resilience. You have advantage on saving throws against poison, and you have resistance against poison. So that is kind of what we want, but this one says immunity, so I might have to kind of fix that a little bit. Like I'm going to tweak that and change that up once I put it on the sheet. So I'm going to drag this over, even though it says Dwarven, and kind of modify it to fit. So this is the... oops, where did that go? Oh, I drug it to the wrong area. So you got to be careful where you're dragging these things. Yeah, see it went, I don't know why it did that, but it's because I drug it from there instead of the actual list. So if I go to Dwarven Resistance, Dwergar Resistance. Okay, so if I drag and drop that into the racial abilities, it should go in there, and that's what it did. Let's see, it made this other group because I didn't drag and drop it properly. So that's something that you got to watch out for. So that's basically that. So when I open this up, I want to take and look at this and read what it says in the actual description for that ability, because it's only for spiders. So I'm going to call it, something related to that, so I don't get screwed up on it. So that's Web Walker, sunlight sensitivity. So Web Walker is just a note. So I'll put that, drag and drop that into here. It's going to go make its own thing. So I'm just going to copy and paste the group and put Web Walker into that group so that I remember that I have that. Oops, I don't want to delete that. Okay, so there's Web Walker. And then as far as the editing goes, this is where we need to change this. So first of all, this is not going to be called Dwarven Resilience anymore. This is going to be something else called Blessed Spiders, basically what it's called. Very similar, but not quite. Blessed Spiders. It says you're immune to both the damage and the condition. So instead of resist, you would say both. Okay, so here's immune. Poisons. And then if you want to do, let's see, the condition. Let's see. Let's see, how does that work? I got to go back and look, but basically if you go to the effects menu, and if you have Rob Tui's coding effects, the actual custom ones up here, if you look for, see, this is immunity, but then you're also, it says, wait, immune to both poison damage and the condition. So let me see what condition is. Yeah, so immune to the condition and immune to the actual poison. So that's, you don't have advantage on saving throws though. So that's not necessary. So you're immune to that, and then immune poison damage. And it's for self. There's no duration on, but it's only used against spider poison. So that's the thing you got to remember. So you'd only activate it when that happens, and you can change this so like when you use it, you can turn it off. So on next action, you can basically do that, or you can do on next roll, or once per modifier. I think I'm going to put it on next action, so at least it will expire after the attack, but maybe that's not, because if you get attacked more than once, that's going to expire. That'll be annoying to keep putting that on. So that's, that's whatever. So immune to the condition of poison, and then immune to the damage. I might have written that wrong. I'll have to go back and check that. So I'll leave that aside. But that's basically how you would code that is. So this is going to be Drider, and then Blessed Spider. Yeah, so I want to look at this later and see if I did that coding right, but I'm pretty close. So there's that, and then elf, then there's a web walker. So we already took care of that. We already took care of sunlight sensitivity. What else did we get rid of? The plates, yeah, we've already dealt with the armor class. The grotesque monster is something that we can code, but I want to put it in the racial trait so I don't forget it. And again, I have to copy and paste the area so it goes to the right spot. So we'll code that one later if there is any coding. The Drydic body type is just what it is, so that is passive, so I don't have to worry about that. The ageless thing is kind of passive, so I don't have to worry about that so much, but I will put that on here in case for like a note. So that is also going to be in that group for the racial abilities. Weapon bond is a class thing. Yeah, so some of these are going to be class related. So spider climb is going to be another one that's going to go in the abilities. And again, I want to put it in that racial category. And what else do we have? Second wind, Fey ancestry, we've already dealt with that. Poison saliva, so that is something we could do. So I'm going to drag and drop it over here, and that's going to make the power group. And I want to make sure it goes into my racial area. And then for the poison saliva, if you open this up, you'll get the con check, and then that's the saving throw. Now, to add damage, see, there's an attack roll and stuff, but I need to add damage. So let me take a look at this. So this is set up as an attack. It says a creature Subjected to poison must save. Okay, so and it increases too. So at third level, increase to 2d6 at third level. So there's some things that you have to realize. So first you have the saving throw. Now I'm going to right click, add an action here. So add action. And then this is going to be add damage, because this is going to be the actual poison. So in the properties of that, I'm going to drag 2 6-sided. So I pick up a 6-sided, right click, and then drag and drop it up here. That gives you the 2 6-sided. And I'm going to type poison. So that is just the poison effect. And when they get bit, if they don't save, then you would apply that poison. And this one down here is not needed. I could have edited that, but I wanted to show you how to. Oh, did I just get rid of it? Yeah, I just deleted the whole thing. I didn't mean to do that. So let me try that again. So drag and drop it, put it in the right area. It says 2d6 poison, so I just go in here. I can add another die here, and that'll fix that. And then I need to add the cast or the attack ability. So I'm going to go again. I'm going to add another action, but I'm going to add the cast function. It's really not casting a spell, but basically you're going to use a dexterity attack. And then I'll go ahead and grab. Let's see, it's an attack. It's melee, and it's going to be based on an ability. And the stat is going to be dex. There we go. So that will take care of the attack roll. And then, like I said, if you open this up, it will reparse the con. So that's cool. So there's the poison saliva. So we got that taken care of. It says your poison spoils when you expose it to air, losing its potency after a minute, preventing you from harvesting or selling it. So it would be something you'd have to use on a successful save. The poison ends. Huh. So it's 1d6 poison, becomes poison for 1 minute. So I want to check the duration on that. So if you go to this poison and we check out the actual, we need to add the poison condition possibly too. So yeah, so you want to add an effect called poisoned, because that will, let's see, they become poison for 1 minute. This damage increases 2d6. Okay, so we need to add the condition of poison, so we're going to do that. So I'm going to add the action for in case we need to apply it. And this is going to be an effect, and we're going to call this Drider Poison. So call it Drider Poison, with a semicolon after there, and then the condition is poisoned. That way we can drag and drop this. And then it said 1 minute, so we'll put 1 minute and it stays on targets. So there we go. So there's poisoned is the condition. So you drag and drop that onto your target if they get hit. So that's quite a bit for that poison. So if you go to the preparation mode, or actually the combat and actions, there's going to be like 4 buttons for that. One is for the saving throw, one is for the actual damage, one is for the attack roll, and then one is for the condition poison. So that's what you need to do if you're going to apply that. So it's a lot of steps in there, but that's basically what needs to happen there. So you're giving them a chance to save if you make the attack roll. If they save, then they don't. It's defined in the poison saliva, so that's what that's for. All right, so weapon bond, all that stuff, we'll see what that does. The web is something I want to put in there too. So put that in there, drag and drop it into the racial areas. Like I said, it's going to make its own thing. It's annoying, but it does happen. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Control V, so it will go into the right section. You can produce this. It's based on your con modifier. So we'll see how this goes. But basically, we'll have to code that up. But it has to do with a net. So I'll put an action in there where you can attack using this as a net, or you would kind of use it like a spell, and that's kind of how this would work. But if I was going to use it like a net, I'd have to put a attack roll, and it increases as you level up and all kinds of stuff. So that's going to have to be something I'd have to go back and add. Let's do some class features. So if I go over to the spells area again, the class features are stored in the class features group. And if you come down this list and you come to source, you can click on fighter. And that will give you all the fighter related stuff, or most of it. So here's the action surge. So I'm gonna go ahead and drag and drop that here. And where is that at? Huh. Okay, there we go. I didn't see it was collapsed. So there's the action surge. So we got that taken care of. And then we want to do second wind. So that's in here. And then weapon bond is another one. And what else do we got? Oh, the bite. Forgot all about that. So the bite is going to be similar to the poison. So we can take that and drag and drop that into the category it goes into, hit Control V. Maybe we can put poison after the bite instead of making a complete separate thing, but I'll just go ahead and add it. So when you do that, I'm going to open up this 1d6. Usually you can put, piercing, comma, but I think that's only on weapons. I don't know if it works on these effects, but it's already at 1d6, but it says that your proficiency with it, it's a simple melee weapon. You can use as a simple, it's got finesse, so you can use dex. So you can put the stat in here as dexterity so that it actually uses dex. And that should be it. So there's your bite. I don't know if you can put damage on there or not. For poison, that would be helpful, but maybe I'll try it. So comma poison, because you can do that with other stuff, so I don't know why not. But we'll see. So here I put in there, I put this poison comma, or comma poison afterwards. And what that does is it should add the poison, what do you call it, the poison condition. We'll see. Alright, so that's that. Okay. There's that, so let's see. So I went ahead and added that, so that's another attack. So the character seems a little bit OP. I don't know if I would allow my players to play one of these, but it certainly makes for an interesting NPC interaction. Maybe a guest player or something, I don't know. But it looks like a lot, so I may not allow that in my game. But nonetheless, that's pretty much a majority of it. I'm going to research these other ones because I have to fix some of these and add more things to it. But I could make advantage and disadvantage for this grotesque monster thing, or just handle it manually and just, put the note in there, but they have to look that up because it affects 4 different skills. So that could be a bear to write all that. So there's that. So there we go. So that is a Drider from the AAW Games Drider module. So again, if I go into my library and I look up my modules, it's under the AAW Games and it's called Drider of the Underworld. So there's some magic items, there's a reference manual for it, and then there's the player side where you can actually do stuff. And it gives you an introduction. There's a really cool artwork that comes with it. And then you can go through and take a look and see what they say about them. They have, you know, divided race. They talked about their traits. It's really well done. So bravo to them. Okay, folks, I think that'll be it. This is just a little special overview of some product that I appreciate personally. You don't necessarily have to subscribe to that, but this is basically how I'd create that character and use the content that's available. So again, this is AAW stuff, and they have pretty good product. So take care, everyone. Have a good afternoon, and I will see you around. Bye-bye.